Thinking about adding props to enhance your role playing games? Ever wanted a cool magic item or a letter that a player can actually feel, touch, or read? Ever wanted to hand out real loot? Then look no further than today's episode. Hello and welcome to RPG PhD. I'm Dr. Ben, and today we will discuss the use of props to enhance your tabletop RPG experience. First of all, what do I mean when I say props? A prop, formerly known as property, is usually an object used on stage or screen by actors during a performance. A prop is considered to be anything movable or portable on a stage or a set distinct from the actor's scenery, costumes, and electrical equipment. There are hand props, props that you hold or carry, personal props, props that are worn or carried, and set props, usually furniture or other smallish items. What we're mainly discussing here as it concerns tabletop RPGs are hand props and personal props, although I have seen a few dungeon masters who like their dragon-shaped thrones. Props can enhance a game by more fully immersing the players in the story and by helping to stimulate the imagination. It can help the players get into character or even feel more a part of the universe. In other words, helping to make it real. For instance, let's say your players are searching a nobleman's bedchamber looking for clues about his involvement in a local cult. After someone rolls a particularly skillful check, the DM might say you find a letter hidden in a false bottom of the nobleman's desk drawer. It reads, and then the DM reads the contents of the letter. That is a perfectly acceptable way of narrating the scene. Alternatively, the DM could simply have the text of the printed letter printed out in a normal font on a regular piece of paper and then hand the players a copy so that they can read it. Again, another completely acceptable way of sharing the information with the players. Finally, you might try using a prop, this time a handwritten letter on paper that looks like old parchment that's been rolled up and sealed with a wax seal or tied with a piece of ribbon. And the DM says, "You find this," and hands it over. Now the players have something real that they can touch, read, pass around, and even hang on to for later. Instead of taking notes about what the letter says, they have the letter. I've also used this to begin campaigns where a certain lord or even villain has sent a personal invitation to the players to meet for a gathering or tournament or whatever the story demands. This way you can personalize the letter to each character and player, which is a nice way of grounding the players into the world. Now, this does have some drawbacks. First of all, it can be time-consuming to create tea or coffee-stained parchment and handwrite a lot of notes, and unless you have great calligraphy skills, you may want to use a printable font to give your prop letter that handwritten feel. Writing letters by hand has a great look, but also can be illegible or really hard to read. The other thing to consider is that unless you run multiple groups of players, most of these letter-type props are only usable once. Let's talk about prop treasure, specifically coins and gems or portable wealth. There are lots of places where you can buy or even 3D print fantasy coins. Although plastic or resin printed coins can be really cool, they don't have that jingle or the weight that's so satisfying with metal ones. I have some metal coins that I've picked up over the years and have used them at my table on occasion. You can find glass gemstones or even real minerals or rocks that you would find in the gift shop of a natural history museum, for example. Quartz, amethyst, geodes, pyrite, tiger's eye, agate, etc. all make really cool looking fantasy treasure. Or even glass beads from the local craft or hobby store can all make for tangible treasure. It can be cool to throw a bag of gems onto the table to show players what they found as they are looting a corpse. There is something that sparks the imagination when you have a coin purse that actually makes that jingling sound, or have that large bag of coins or gems that clang down on the table during an in-game wager or offer to employ the adventurers. I think these sorts of props can be great, but they also have their downsides, especially with the coins. I was really excited the first time I used coins at my table. I gave all the players their starting money in little coin purses, basically repurposed dice bags, and had them pay for their ale, their food, and lodging when they visited an inn. At first it was really cool, but over time I found that all I was doing was making change, which over the course of a campaign can become really tedious and annoying. Also, for players, it can be equally as tedious to find exact change with their coins. So I've found that for handing out loot or very specific uses, like when a rogue pickpockets a person's coin purse, I might toss them what they find, for example. but for everyday transactions, not so much. Let's discuss magic items, props, small handheld or wearable items. Things like amulets, brooches, rings, wands, or even small artifacts can really be a cool way of engaging players' imaginations. These sorts of props are often used to enhance or convey something about character. So if your spellcaster player has a wand that they use to cast their spells, it could be something to play with at the table, as long as they don't put anyone's eyes out from all that wand waving. There are props that can be handmade or 3D printed or even purchased from online retailers or repurposed from the Halloween store or bought from the old thrift store or costume jewelry counter at your local chain store. There are lots of possibilities, and you're only limited by your imagination. I think for me personally, I want a prop to have a good look and feel and be something that adds to instead of takes away from the role-playing experience. For some players, props can add something tactile to those items, add to character or even ignite the imagination or connect players to their character or the world in a deeper way. One of the drawbacks of props is that no matter how cool a prop is, it often cannot compete with someone's imagination of the described item. It really depends on your group and what works for them. I think the other is player expectations. If you require a prop every time you hand out treasure, that can be problematic. Doesn't allow for on-the-fly treasure and can spoil your players to always expect it. So maybe just use props for very special occasions, very specific things, where the particular item is important or central to the narrative. The final type of prop, set props, are items that you don't necessarily use directly, but are more like set dressing. These items create atmosphere or help to set the mood for the game you're about to play. LED candles, or even real ones, a lantern, a skull, or even small treasure-like boxes, a dagger, a crystal ball, or a metal goblet, or tankard, potion bottles, or any sort of fantasy item might be cool to have at or around the table to add some set dressing to your playing area. Some DMs have swords or weapons or shields hanging on their walls, or even torches or mounted dragon heads, all of which add some fantasy flavor to your gaming area. So maybe go and experiment with some of the props and see how and if they enhance your games. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts about role-playing experiences, so please post your comments or questions below, and don't forget to like and subscribe as it really helps the channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.